Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and welcome to a Borderlands 3 news update. Today we are going to be further discussing Project 1v1, Gearbox's recently announced project, and how it's actually not impacting Borderlands 3 as much as we had originally thought. In my initial report, I highlighted that I thought that this wasn't going to be too much of a cause for worry as Project 1v1 isn't that big of a project in its own, but that it could potentially take up resources and time that could have gone to Borderlands 3, and it turns out we're learning something today, and that's not the case whatsoever. This all starts off at the magical news source for Borderlands 3, which is Randy Pitchford. Dominic says, Project 1v1. Thanks for making this my first tweet, Randy Pitchford. May Project 1v1 rest in peace. Borderlands 3 or bust. To which Randy says, 1v1 does not distract from other efforts. It actually helps. And I was quite surprised by that response. I figured that we'd get the typical, it doesn't distract us from anything else. But to see that it actually helps was really surprising. We learn exactly why in the follow-up, to which @theKaiGuy1 asks, I just want some clarification, Randy. How does 1v1 help? It seems like it would take up resources and time that could be put elsewhere, and we all felt the same about this. To which Randy says, some infrastructure and backend is better when used and iterated. Also, different people are differently useful at different phases of development. So really interesting stuff there, and a lot to take away when you really break it down. We see that he's referring to infrastructure, and Project 1v1 is obviously an online game. Now mind you, this is speculation, but perhaps what he's saying is that, say that Project 1v1's framework for online is really stable, or maybe this is a way they're going to evolve dueling from Borderlands 2 into Borderlands 3, and perhaps this infrastructure can be carried into Borderlands 3 at ease because they already have a project using that similar technology. Also, I think the biggest highlight here is that different people are differently useful at different phases in development. So some people are specifically used for pre-production, so there's no point in keeping them on Borderlands 3, which is well into development, when they could start on Project 1v1, get that ball rolling, put a couple of people on the team there for the beginning of the project who are good at the beginning of said projects, and have Project 1v1 be at a state where it can be announced and have technical tests performed for it, meaning that those same people wouldn't have been working on Borderlands 3 in the first place. So it's not taking away from anything, it's just them really efficiently using their resources, which makes sense. So I'm actually very surprised, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to consider with a lot of games in the future. I think it's also worth considering, once again, something I said in the previous video, is that this isn't a very big project as far as I can tell at a first look. It doesn't seem like anything that's big enough to really take away heavily from Borderlands 3. But we have to apply this line of thinking to all the other games we were thinking about, such as the newly announced Duke Nukem game, Brothers in Arms. Once again, that same path of thought applies here too, where we can look at the pre-production those games are in and say, okay, those are people who are specifically good at pre-production, who are designed to do pre-production because they're useful at that phase of development. So that doesn't really impact Borderlands 3 at all, because they wouldn't have been working on that project anyways. So I can imagine there has been a collective sigh of relief across the Borderlands community, and rightfully so. We don't want to see any delays for this game whatsoever. We want to get it as soon as possible, so long as the product is very good. But anyway, I wanted to provide this news update for you guys because I know a lot of people were really worrying about Project 1v1. They were starting to get mad at Gearbox. I totally understand why, but it seems like there isn't too much cause for concern based off what Randy has said here on Twitter. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.